The subject of touch marks comes up quite frequently, so today I thought I would address what I use as a touch mark and where it comes from. Welcome back to Black Bear Forge and the tool of the day. As blacksmiths, most of us are quite proud of our work, and it is worth putting our mark on it, both so the customer can be proud of where they bought it, and so we can identify it later and perhaps even bring business to us when people see your mark and they want to know where did that come from. They can figure out who made that. Touch marks can come in a wide variety of styles. They can be something that is hand done each and every time with a series of small chisels or engravers, or they can be a permanent stamp, either one that was made in the shop, or in the case of what I use manufactured stamps that were custom made to my specifications. And I didn't always do that. When I started out, I made my own stamp like so many blacksmiths do. I thought, oh, I'll just put an anvil on my work. So I made a nice little anvil-shaped stamp. But an anvil really doesn't tell anybody where it came from. It just looks good on the work, and it's a bit of a cliche anyways, so I didn't use that for long. The next touch mark that I tried were my initials, JRS, and I handmade this stamp. I engraved it with a very crude shop-made engraving tool, very irregular numbers, very handmade, and it got the point across. There's not another stamp like this anywhere. There's no mistaking who made it. The stamp is still usable 20 years later, although I probably only used it for about 10 years. I should say it's still usable probably 30 years later. I used it for about 10 and haven't used it for 20 years. But again, I wasn't real happy with it. It didn't look professional enough in my eyes. It just didn't give the message that I really wanted to give for a stamp. So after that, I started using just the letter S, and it was just a regular store-bought letter S. Again, didn't really do much for me. It was a nice clean stamp, nice clean imprint, looked reasonable on the work, and is fairly typical historically to just have a simple initial on the work, but it still didn't positively identify that it was my work. It could have been anybody with an initial S that had made that work. So after that, I decided to have custom stamps made. I have a stamp made that is my last name, Switzer, and a second stamp made with just a bear paw, and it's a bear paw that my wife had drawn up on the computer because she's better at computer graphics than I am. And these two are used in combination, typically with my last name and then the bear paw over it. Although because it doesn't always fit on all work, having two stamps that I can use that configuration side by side, sometimes the last name on one side of the work, the bear paw on another. Some work I only put the bear paw on just because it doesn't really call for a big touch mark. But it's relatively small, relatively unobtrusive, and I have been using these stamps for 20 years now. And they show no sign of deterioration, tiny amount of mushrooming on the end that I can grind off every now and then. But I have been very happy with these stamps. And I will mention at the end of the video where these came from and who you can contact, because the company is still in business, and they will make just about anything you might possibly need in the way of stamps. Since that time, and more recently, I've been thinking more traditional in the way my touch mark might want to look. And I'm thinking of what they refer to as an intaglio stamp. It's one where the letters are raised and the background is pushed down. You can engrave the letters into the stamp material. Then when you use it, it leaves the impression of the background and the letters are raised letters. Now I've tried that myself. I've tried using just regular reverse letter stamps, and that didn't really work out very well for me. I didn't really like the way they looked. So I had the same stamp company make me a very nice reverse stamp. When I say reverse, it's the way it marks on the material. When I read this, it reads properly, and a regular facing stamp reads backwards. So when you stamp the material, this would be backwards. So it stamps a backwards impression in the stamp body. The stamp you're making, the touch mark stamps the forwards impression. This one I had made just a little bit too big. It's a monstrous stamp. And so I had another one made, and I haven't tried to make a touch mark with this yet. I think it'll be a much better sized touch mark. It's in 1/8 letters, and the other one was in 3/16 letters. So I'm anxious to do this, and I think we'll probably do it in an upcoming video real soon, because I really ought to just get it done. I just haven't had time so far. When using the stamps to mark material, I typically use the smaller stamps under the treadle hammer. It allows good control. I can hold the stamp in a pair of tongs so I don't smash my finger or don't have to try and hold that little stamp real close to hot work. If you're going to use it on hot work, order them or make them yourself with longer shanks on them so you can do that. This big stamp takes a lot of work to get it to leave an impression, so on the rare occasion I use it, I actually use it under the hydraulic press, and it leaves a pretty good imprint that way. There are other people out there who have made their own stamps that are much better at engraving or chasing the ends of the stamp to look just right. And I encourage you to watch some of their videos. I know Roy over at Christ-Centered Ironworks has done some videos on making touch mark stamps, and it's very well worth going to watch those if you want to make your own. If you have a more complicated design, or if you want crisp, even letters to make a name or initials, I highly recommend a commercially made stamp. And those are available from quite a few places. There are several manufacturers out there that make commercially made stamps. You can find them online. The company that I have used for all of the commercial stamps I have bought over the last 20 years is H.A. Evers, or Henry A. Evers Company. It goes by the name Everstamp, and I think it might be everstamp.com, but I'll put a link down in the description. Try to put a link down here in the bottom of the video so you can see it. And they have always given me good service. The prices I think are reasonable, but they are not cheap. Remember, you're getting something custom cut into the bottom of a little tiny stamp, and you're going to need to be willing to pay for that. I think I might have paid $80 a stamp for these when I bought them. I think these bigger reverse stamps with my whole full name on them might have been several $100s, but I will never replace these. That's a one-time investment, and I can use this stamp to make as many of these stamps as I'm going to need. Again, this pair of stamps I've been using for 20 years, and they haven't worn out yet. I might get another 20 years worth of use out of them before I need to replace them, if I don't go all over to the new style stamp once I get it made. But we'll see how that goes. Anyways, that's just a short tool of the day. Didn't have much to say. I spent most of the day at the dentist office getting some bridge work done, so I didn't have any time in the shop at all today except to come up and do this video. Give it a thumbs up if you can. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. Then get out to your shop, make something, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one.